Mr. Urs Heckmann here
Hello.
at Superbooth once again.
Yes, here we are.
And you've got a different room here. This is This is quite palatial. This is like the executive corner office.
It's now called the UHE Lounge. It's we couldn't get the old space, and they offered us this bigger one, and we thought we'd do a quiet space, right? So it's a room in itself, and we're it's usually and it's difficult to find, so there's always a lot of space here, which is also good.
So last year we looked at the beginnings of your first foray into hardware.
Yeah.
And this year it's a CVlization, which you have again, right?
Yes, it's basically the same product we had last year, which is this, right? And last year it looked mostly like that, and that was this thing. It's got 4 inputs, 4 outputs, and you can matrix mix them any way you want, and so it's not an intuitive module because it doesn't tell you anything about what it does, but you can quickly learn how to mix. For instance, like I want this input on the 4 outputs, I just do this, and there it is. And this time now we can also invert, so you can go negative values and that kind of stuff.
It's not really a mixer, but it's one of its functions, right?
Yeah, it's a matrix mixer. So it does audio, and it also does control signals. So that's why it's called CVlization, because it's a very, I think it's a very high quality module in terms of specs. So it's got like 24 bits, and it does 96 kilohertz, and it does minus 10 to plus 10 volts, and DC coupled, and all of that. And because of this new type of control, right? This rotary encoder with the LED, we can do things that we couldn't do with any normal knobs, and so we made this module firstly for the matrix mixer that I showed last year, but then we have 4 more modes which you switch through here, and here and here, and I think the best thing is I explain what they do.
Yeah.
Because they it makes a lot of sense to explain that. So the second mode was also last year we already knew that the second mode would be a sequential switch. So a normal sequential switch got 1 input, 4 outputs, or 4 inputs, 1 output. So they create a little bit of a disbalance in a small system. And because we got 4 inputs and 4 outputs, and we've got a digital module, we can route 4 inputs on 4 outputs, and we did so by making it 4 sequences. So we can look here. So this output sequences through the inputs, which are color coded like here, and then we can click this, and then you can set up your sequence of inputs, and you can have 4 different sequences. This one is all green, but I can add a bit of blue in there and yellow, and you can have skips, right? And you can have somewhere also plain values, which is just a DC. And so it's basically 4 sequences of the inputs, and then on the other side, you can also attenuate them, right? So it's
So
it's a very simple.
How fast can it go? Can it do? Because obviously sometimes you can feed more waveforms, multiple waveforms, in, and then create generative waveforms if you've got a very fast switching.
I have no idea, to be honest. We haven't used it at audio rate, and it's not really meant to be, because usually I think trigger signals are like at least a millisecond or so.
Right,
so one could probably go up to 800 hertz, but we haven't tried what it sounds like. I mean, it's a digital module. It will alias then, right?
Right. Okay.
So yeah, so that's the second mode. It's fairly simple. Whenever something is blinking like this one, you get back. You click it, you get back to the start mode or to the start page, and then. The third mode is the one that's actually set up here. That transforms the unit into 4, we call it sequence multipliers. They are like CV recorders, but they do step sequences, right? It's stepped, it's not continuous. And what you can do is you can, for instance, you set up a sequencer, or like here, you use a keyboard, and then you go out with the pitch.
And it just records the value.
You just play it in, and then you recorded it. And what you can do is, like, for instance, the sequencer is going into this somehow, or with a random source, and then you click here, and that records whatever is coming into it, and now it's playing back. But then, for each lane, you can do that, and you can also then mutate it. So when you turn this to the right, you mutate the sequence, and you also see that the values change a little bit. And then when you have something you like, you press here, and then the mutation is saved. And then if it's too much for you, you can unmutate it by going to the left. Then everything, all the intervals become smaller until it goes back to like the first note that you actually recorded.
Oh gosh, it's quite interesting. Is this actually making a noise then? Is it going to make a noise that will be meaningful and we can understand?
We can try it. There's it's set up to do two melodies at once. I can turn it on.
So you're mutating.
Yeah, I'm mutating.
So you could use that as for performance, I guess,
Yes.
real time.
Yes. I think this one does the filter cut on the one. Yeah, I like that.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
And let me just turn it back down again. Yeah, and it's not only that. Also, once it's in playback mode, you can use the inputs on each lane or in each of the sequences to transpose it, which is quite handy. So what you basically can do in a quick manner is you can quickly record whatever sequencer you have, like 4 times, and then change it, manipulate it, and transpose it. So that's what we mean by sequence multiplier. You have one sequencer or one sequence, and you generate 4 different copies of it, so to speak. Right?
Ah, okay, all right.
Yeah. So that's the third mode, and it's actually quite simple. So from the original concept where we thought, oh, we do elaborate things, we went back to more simple modes, more useful modes where you don't need to remember everything in the unit, because we don't want people to have to look into a manual.
Yeah,
so
I mean it's color coded, and you could use that to your.
There are a couple of color coded things, but we removed most of the need to remember color coded things, except for you might want to remember what the scales are in the quantizers. Right, every mode can have like quantizers and sample and holds, and but you can then, like this sequencer, you can record scales into it, which we haven't implemented yet, so we can't show it yet, but will be happening within the next couple of weeks. And let's go through the fourth mode. The fourth mode is a quadraphonic panner. So it takes the 4 inputs and pans them onto the outputs in a circular fashion. And for each of the inputs, you can not only set the pan position, you can set an auto pan in both directions. You know, like now it goes really, really quick.
Oh wow! So real kind of mad, droney or weird. Yeah.
Yeah. If you use that for audio, you can use it for audio, of course, right?
Yeah.
You can actually use it as a quadraphonic mixer for your performance, and it can auto pan. And it's got a second function, auto panning function, which we call the auto hop or random hop feature. So this is good for percussive material like hi-hats and stuff. And whenever there's a transient, it will assign the channel a new pan position randomly.
Oh, wow.
And then things fly through the room.
So it sounds like you're marrying the hardware and your recent love of modular equipment with lots of DSP now that's going on and digital stuff that's going under the hood.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. You know, I mean, we are a DSP company, so I just really got into modular through the last 2 or 3 years, and in this, it's like a whole new world, right? And with this module, I try to put everything into it that I can't find anywhere else.
Ah, okay,
right?
Makes sense.
And you know, I listened like 2 years ago. I listened to my first quadraphonic performance by I think it was Max Loderbauer. I think that was even 3 years ago, and it's like, I want that, right? And then there's not many quadraphonic mixers for Eurorack, right? And because we had this module and it's got 4 inputs for outputs, it's like, yeah, why not? And then we did it, and then we tried it. It's like, yeah, this is what you want, you know? It's
excellent.
Like,
so, and this is ongoing, the development of this.
Yeah, it's ongoing.
Have you got a kind of... it's asking a something manufacturer when something's going to be released, but now you're hardware, so you have to answer, right?
Yeah. Okay. Actually, it was supposed to be released half a year ago, but with all the things, you know, hardware is actually it's completely different minefield to software. It's completely different. It's like parts not available, parts getting too warm. Oh, we need another capacitor in there, that kind of stuff. So, but we are now, I think we are going into our last revision of the circuit board with an actual feature request. We got feature requests before we even released it. And so we go into our last revision, and then we're pretty much geared up. We will do beta testing. We will provide a couple of people with sample units. And then I guess there'll be like, with this mode you have to do this and that and that and that.
A bit of tweaking.
Yeah, a bit of tweaking, a bit of fine tuning. But I have been using it intensively over the past 2 weeks, and it does work pretty well. We sometimes have, you know, still some crashes. Like, okay, gotta fix that. But
so when do you think? I mean, have you got a price or a rough idea?
Well, yeah, I mean, we said 300 at max, and this is still what I want to do. We're probably paying a little bit on top of it then, but it depends on how many we sell, of course, right?
Sure.
So I think this year should be definitely possible. I try to be cautious, but I think this year sometime.
I can tell.
It must. Yeah, because it's such. I mean, for me, it's really a fun module, right? As I say, it's not intuitive, but you get it fairly quickly. Every mode is quite simple. It does something that you don't really get anywhere else. Not in this format anyway, in this compact format. Yeah.
Okay, well, Urs, thank you very much indeed.
Wait,
there's more. Oh, wait,
you
there's
have
more.
to just quickly go through this and just have a look. Just have a look.
Oh, super secret prototype.
Yeah, super secret.
That's very secret. What is this? So what? Okay, you have to talk about this now.
Yeah, okay. This is something where it's actually this prototype just broke yesterday evening, so we can't really show it. But what it does is it's basically based on a slope detector. So the obvious disadvantage of a sequencer like CVlization is you don't get gates, right? It's only voltages. It's like it's a pure voltage sequencer, and this one takes like 1 volt per octave and puts it through. So you can put this in between your sequence CV for your oscillator, and you can do it twice, but the first one is normal to the second one. So what it does then is it analyzes the signal. So you get a gate when the voltage goes up here, you get a gate when the voltage goes down here, you get a gate when the voltage moves at all, you get a gate when the voltage is still, you get a gate when this voltage is larger than that voltage, or the other way around.
That's just like a mathematical function generator.
Yeah, it's like an auto gate if you want, right? And then you have a gate time, so it's not just gates go on and stay on or anything. They have you can go from trigger to like a 2-second gate, And then you have down here, you have a fully analog. This is like a function generator, but with attack time set to 0 and decay time can be chosen. And then the rising and the falling gates are normed onto it, but you can put anything. And then you get an envelope. So you get like an envelope with a little bit of gate and a little bit of decay. So you get all your stuff. And it's a very small unit. And it's perfectly suited for 1 volt per octave signals. And you get all the gates that you don't get anywhere else. And you just create a sequence, right? You know, like up, down, 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 up, down. And then you get your patterns there. And it just keeps flashing and doing things. And for free, 2 fully analog super mini function generators. And you can use them as audio for audio rate modulations as well, like as a wave shaper or anything actually.
Oh wow! So when's this go? This is super secret. So
yeah, that just happened in the last 2 weeks. It's like, oh, I really could need something like that. And there's a slope detector. Just one. I couldn't find anything else. There's a slope detector module, and then there is this one, the rampage, right? The Bifaco rampage does the falling and rising slope detections, but that wasn't accurate enough for me. I mean, it works, but it's not.
Right, so
it doesn't work with slow changes, right? And I thought, this is digital, so the detection is digital, and that makes it very sensitive and very customizable for our needs. So
do you? I mean, I remember interviewing at the first Superbooth, and you were talking about component modeling and stuff. Do you design this functionality in software first, and then get it made in electronics?
Actually, that's a funny thing. We're coming out with Hive 2, right? So, and I think you'll be seeing Victor at some point. But and in Hive, we sneaked some kind of maths-inspired module in there. So we got in Hive, which is almost simple, like easygoing synth or easy-to-use synth. We sneaked function generators in there, which is very, very useful. It opens up so many options, right? Such a palette of things. And there we added those gates. So in Hive you already have the rising and the still and the falling and the moving gate in the function generators that you can use to trigger all sorts of things now. And so this is how it kind of, from the modular world, function generators put them into Hive, and then let's have those gates there, and then actually I need those gates in my Eurorack now.
Right, so it's just cross-pollination.
Yeah, right? It's like a ping pong delay. It's like just happened. Yeah. We don't really know when this module is coming out and what it eventually will look like. We don't know, and if we make it more customizable or this and that, But
that's where you
are. Once it works, it's just, as I say, I fried it. Probably just disconnected it the wrong way. Once it works, it's actually quite good. I mean, it's exactly what I need for my kind of generative composition. Like have all these different melodies. One sequence and extract as many melodies and as many timings out of it as possible.
Ah.
Yeah.
Urs, thank you very much.
Thank you.